So Josh Newman, senator for the 29th district, was recalled, and that's the most recent recall. So sort of take you through the process of how that worked and why. Um, so Josh Newman's for the 29th district in the state senate. He was elected in 2016. It was the closest election in the state, razor close. He won, and actually was behind on election night and behind for quite some time. Um, it the orientation for the new Senate had already come and gone, and the election wasn't decided. In the end, when all the votes were counted, he won by 2,498, which is as close as you can get, really. So this was seen by the Republicans as a seat that was stolen. It had been in Republican hands prior. And this seat gave the Democrats the 2/3 majority in the Senate. And that matters because in California, the rule is that you need 2/3 to raise taxes. You only need a majority to pass a law. You only need a majority to pass a budget, but you need 2/3 in the state assembly and 2/3 in the state senate to raise taxes. So the Republicans were, upset and worried. And with Josh Newman in the state senate, Democrats held a supermajority, not just in the state senate, but in the assembly. Now, the reality is that the election was held. You don't get a redo just because you don't like the outcome. So, Josh Newman is in, and Jerry Brown had kept taxes low, relatively, not raising taxes through the legislature in his first term, and instead asking the voters to raise them on themselves with Proposition 30 and Proposition 55, which extended Proposition 30. But in 2016, with the supermajority, he said, let's raise taxes for the roads. So, little background on the gas tax. The gas tax has been the same since 1992, and since then, costs have gone up, the cost of maintenance has gone up, the cost of construction has gone up, and the amount that we're receiving from the gas tax has gone down, because we have more energy efficient vehicles, we have hybrids, we have electric vehicles. So, the irony is that the more energy efficient, the farther you can go on a gallon of gasoline, the less taxes that you're paying, and therefore the worse the roads get. So road conditions in California are terrible. There are potholes. When the rain comes, bridges literally fall down. We have a lot of infrastructure that hasn't been kept up. And so there are major problems with road maintenance and infrastructure. So when you look at the amount of money that we're getting, it has gone down a lot. And so we need more money. And where do you get that money? Not necessarily from a tax. That's clearly where Jerry Brown went, but we've got this problem. We've got one solution is to raise taxes. And when you look at Fullerton, Fullerton has the worst roads in Orange County. They get an F all throughout. Other cities have done a better job of maintaining their roads, but Fullerton, when you look at the math, it's just without help from the outside, without some other revenue, Fullerton is only going to get worse. So Fullerton has budgeted $1 million a year for repaving in the city. They have 88 miles of road in Fullerton, and it costs $1,025,000 to pave a mile of road. So they are not able to pave even a mile of road a year, given their budget, and they're falling behind. It's just, if you've driven in Fullerton, you probably are not surprised by these numbers. So Fullerton is looking for state money to supplement. Lots of cities are looking for this money. So the legislature passes a gas tax, SB 1. You need 2/3 in the Assembly, 2/3 in the Senate, and they got that. Jerry Brown was very persuasive, and it's sort of interesting because they actually had a Republican senator, Anthony Cannella, voted yes. And so Josh Newman's vote wasn't the deciding vote. Cannella's actually was, if you consider that he was the only Republican in either chamber to vote for it. But Josh Newman got blamed. So Republicans jumped on this vote as a betrayal that wouldn't have happened if Josh Newman hadn't been in office. And you can kind of see the math work out really simply. When you look at how many votes does it take, how many signatures does it take to get a referendum? So if you want to repeal the gas tax, it takes 880 signatures that you have to get for a statewide referendum. But to target a single senator, because you only have to get the number of votes from the 29th district to recall an individual senator, you only need 63,593 signatures. So, going to be much cheaper to recall an individual senator than to do a statewide referendum. It's going to be much faster. Now, recalling Josh Newman doesn't mean you get to undo the vote. All the votes that he voted for prior to him being removed are still going to go into effect. But it sends a clear message. It punishes the Democrats. It punishes Josh Newman. And it takes away the 2/3 majority in the state Senate. So, Carl DeMaio is a radio talk show guy in San Diego. He agrees to spend millions of dollars to fund this recall. And they do it in a deceptive way. And this is what has really gotten a lot of people upset. They went to grocery stores and they went to, all of these places to get signatures, but they didn't say recall Josh Newman. They said repeal the car tax, stop the car tax. If you talk to people during the recall, that's what they were saying. And so it was really deceptive because nothing about recalling Josh Newman stops the car tax. Nothing about recalling Josh Newman repeals the car tax. It's just punishing him for voting for that. And again, he was one vote out of all the others. And nobody else was getting recalled. So they get enough signatures and the recall goes forward. Now the Democrats delay. The Democrats play a bunch of games in Sacramento trying to delay it. There's a court case saying that the signatures were invalid because of this deceptive practices. So there was a period where if you had signed and you were lied to, you could take your signature back, but really difficult to track down everybody. So that didn't end up working. The Democrats got it delayed enough so that it wasn't a special election. Normally a recall election would be a special election. And that would be really hard because voter turnout is really low during a special election. So the Democrats said, the best chance of keeping this guy, the best chance of not losing our seat is to delay this until the regular June primary when turnout will be higher. And particularly higher because the midterm elections have a lot of anger and the indivisible movement is really big. And there's the chance to elect a Democrat to Congress in November, and there's a really competitive race in the Congressional District 39 to replace Ed Royce. So turnout was going to be higher, and they thought that would, particularly among Democrats, which would help Josh Newman. So the Democrats played a whole bunch of games in Sacramento to delay this, not have it be a special election, and the election goes forward in June. So, the recall question that goes on the ballot is, do you want to recall State Senator Josh Newman? And then, question 2 is, who do you elect to finish the term for state senator. And there were 6 names, 3 Democrats, well, kind of, and 3 Republicans. The reality is that the Democratic Party didn't put up anybody because they wanted to put all of their effort into defeating the recall and not having Josh Newman recalled. Joseph Cho is a Democrat, and he jumped into the race basically to protect the seat in case the recall passed, but he could still be a candidate for the race. Josh Ferguson is not a Democrat, but he registered as a Democrat to try to confuse things, and so his signs kind of said, yes on the recall, vote for Josh, which was really confusing. But the party got behind, the Republican Party got behind Ling Chang, who had held the assembly seat in that same district, and of course was the candidate against Josh Newman in the 2016 election. So she had a lot of name recognition. Bruce Whitaker is from Fullerton City Council. So, and George Shen didn't get very many votes at all because he's not very well known. So, if the majority vote on question number 1, Newman remains senator if people don't vote to recall him. But if the majority vote yes on question number 1, then Newman is removed. If people say yes, we want to recall him. And the results of question number 2 only matter if the recall gets a majority of yes votes. So even if you vote no on the recall, you should still vote for a candidate to replace, because in case you lose, somebody's going to be in office. But if the recall fails, if Josh Newman keeps his job, then it doesn't matter how many votes. And strangely, we haven't seen this happen because usually people vote pretty consistently, but you could have a situation where 51% of the people vote no on the recall, Josh Newman keeps his job, but 51% of the people had voted for Ling Chang to be the senator. It seems like she should be the senator, but the results for question number 2 don't matter unless the candidate is recalled. When you look at party registration, it's a really competitive seat, and so this is going to be a competitive seat in 2020 when the seat comes up for office. The Senate only runs every 4 years, so Ling Chang, I shouldn't have told you the results yet, but Josh Newman lost. But it is really tight. Democrats have 36% of the vote. Republicans have 33%, 34% really. And no political party is 36%. So the election happens. Usually the recall is not used this way. It's not used deceptively. It's not used to punish somebody for a vote. Usually it's for, and quite honestly, usually it's city council and school board. We haven't seen a senator, recalled in California ever. We had Schwarzenegger get into office because we recalled Gray Davis, but that was a really different situation. So we have the authority to recall, elected officials, but, you can't recall federal officials. You can't recall presidents or United States senators or congressmen. That's federal law, and the Constitution doesn't allow the recall. But this direct democracy, we can fire direct officials. But it was sort of interesting to see even Republican newspapers, the Orange County Register, say, we're opposed to the recall. This is not what the recall should be. Recall should be the political weapon of last resort. They should be used sparingly and only when the claims of impropriety surpass typical election year differences in the realm of immoral, unethical, or criminal. The Los Angeles Times sort of said that as well. Newman is not being targeted for anything so fundamental as committing a felony, just for his vote. So there were a lot of people opposed to it philosophically, but he won. It worked. The Republican Party did a good job of demonizing Newman and blaming him completely for the gas tax. And so he was recalled with 59% of the vote. And on question number 2, Ling Chang got the most votes, only in 30%, but she still got the most votes. So she wins the recall election. You don't have to win a majority. Schwarzenegger was one of 135 candidates during the governor's recall. You don't have to win